Anyone else wondering what all this stuff is going on about the Pope? It just seems really weird. I mean, I guess I just twigged a little while ago that the Pope was actually quite an important figure. I mean, I know he's like a religious leader. There's a lot of the world, like Latin America, Ireland, Italy, that are Catholic, and for them, the Pope is probably like a fairly important figure, although having said that, in my experience of Catholics, they don't exactly devote a great deal of time to thinking about the Pope. So I'm not sure how important the Pope is with Catholics, really. But I guess what I've realised is that in terms of the world powers and the way stuff goes in the world, the money and all the rest of it, the Pope and the Vatican, the power of the Vatican is quite important. So maybe that's partly why there's been all this stuff lately in the news about the Pope. But I mean, it does seem a bit weird because the stuff that the Pope is talking about and going on about is just stuff that just seems completely incongruous with a Pope. I mean, from my knowledge of the Pope, for a start, over the last few decades, most ordinary Catholic people have been like crying out for the Pope to say, yes, you can have contraception. If you're married and you're in a responsible relationship, you can use contraception, right? But he's never done that. It's just been, oh, you can only have the rhythm method. That's the only thing that's suitable. I mean, I'm actually living proof. So there we go. But anyway, now, not only is he, I don't know what his attitude on contraception is, whether he's come out on that, but he's actually talking about climate change, and that one of the reasons why we have that is because there are too many people in the world and we need depopulation. I mean, how can somebody go from a viewpoint of, for 400 years, saying in the catechism or whatever of Catholics that human life is sacred, and from the moment of conception we must not have an abortion, and also that when you marry you agree to be fertile and have a child, and fertility is the basis. How can they go from that to saying actually there are too many people in the world and we need to depopulate? Because if you just look at it logically, because people are living a little bit longer generally, the population of the world is naturally going to grow because slightly less old people will die off with respect to more people being born. So the trend is going to be for the world to slightly grow in population. That's probably even allowing for using things like contraception. So how is the Pope going to go from a viewpoint of his total life philosophy, if you like, to depopulation? Well, it's just very implausible. Climate change thing, I mean, it's quite a sort of political thing, isn't it? It's like he's mixing with the UN, and he's meeting Ban Ki-moon from the UN, and then he's gonna, in September he's going to America to have a conference with Obama, and then on September the 28th, apparently this is quite a sort of, according to Bible people, apparently this time is prophesied in the Bible as being a religiously important time this September. It's to do with some fourth blood moon or some counting some time back in the Bible. But anyway, at this time, there's going to be a big UN summit about climate change, of which the Pope is like, the big guest and all the rest of it. And it's like, that seems suspicious to me. I mean, I've always felt that politics, okay, so politics and religion, I mean, priests and religious people can obviously have a view about things like poverty and so on and so forth, and wars and stuff like that. But when they're actually sort of going to bed with politicians and global corporations and global um, organisations, then it seems to me that they're actually compromising their true purpose, which is about spirituality. The other thing that makes me suspicious is that really, like, the UN and the American government, you know, do not have a good record of being humanitarian or being independent. For a start, one thing that we all know, basically, that we've learned in the last year, is that the bankers are completely corrupt and the banking system is completely corrupt. And the other thing that's being gradually revealed to us is how closely the bankers and the corporations are enmeshed with all of the politicians. And we know that all of the politicians are also enmeshed with the UN and the idea of this one world government. So it seems to me that the Pope is starting to look like a bit of a sort of puppet that's been kind of brought in to serve some sort of agenda that is to do with what the governments, or if you like, the corporate government, the corporations and the governments actually want.